I'm out here this morning to brief you on a homicide investigation that we are conducting in the 9600 block of West Tropicana. I stress the information that I'm sharing right now is very preliminary, but around 2 a.m. this morning, we received multiple phone calls of several shots that were fired in the parking lot directly behind me. Officers arrived and they found a black male in his early 40s deceased from a gunshot wound in the parking lot. From our preliminary investigation, we had learned that the other party involved, after leaving the shooting, immediately reached out and called police to let us know that they were involved in a shooting. This is what we have learned, that earlier in the evening, there were two black males that were seen walking through the apartment complex directly adjacent to the business behind me. Once they crossed the fence and walked across the street, they encountered a male and a female who were having dinner in the parking lot of the business. They were by their trunk of the vehicle. At some point, there's an altercation between the two black males and the male and the female that were having dinner in the parking lot. At some point, gunfire was exchanged between the deceased male and the male who was having dinner in the parking lot. At this point, we do know there were more than 15 rounds that were exchanged in the parking lot, and there is a distinct separation between the cartridge casings where the victim or where the deceased is and where the other shooter was. We, again, don't know what led up to the shooting. There was a female who arrived on scene prior to the police arriving, who is the girlfriend of the deceased. That female moved the gun that the deceased had and put that in her car. So we're in the process of serving a search warrant on the vehicle and his residence because that male lives in an apartment directly to my left. So at this point, we're still trying to iron out a lot of details. There's also a gun store that's approximately 30 yards away from where the deceased is that we're still trying to determine if it is involved or not. There's rocks that appear that the business was broken into or an attempt burglary to the gun store. But we're not sure if the gun store burglary or attempt burglary is related to this incident that we're investigating. It could just be a complete coincidence. So with that, I will take a couple questions.
What's the status of the other people involved? We have one deceased. Are other people in custody?
So, and I know I've thrown out a lot, it's a little confusing at this point. So the deceased, we are speaking with the deceased's girlfriend. We are also speaking with the male and female who engaged the deceased in the parking lot. So we're at their residence after they contacted the police. We went out there, we're speaking with that male and his girlfriend pertaining to what led up to the shooting. What we're getting is that the two males were walking through the parking complex, or walking through the parking lot, and then walked up to the male and the female who were having dinner in the parking lot. What led the two males up to them, we're still trying to figure that out. That information is consistent with witnesses in the apartment complex who have told us that they did see the two males walking through the complex prior to the shooting. After the shooting, one black male was seen running away back the opposite direction through the apartment complex.
So there's no reason to believe that the two parties knew each other prior to the shooting?
At this point, no, and that's what we're trying to figure out, what led up to the shooting. But at this point, no information has been presented to me right now that leads us to believe that the two parties know each other.
Is the surviving suspected shooter facing any charges or being arrested?
No, at this point, the information that we have been provided appears that the incident appears to be self-defense. That's what we are just trying to confirm at this point. There's obviously an exchange of gunfire. There's obviously the two males that were walking through the complex towards the male and the female who were in the parking lot of the business having dinner. But what led up to that, I don't know. But it's clear that the deceased had a gun in his hand. The deceased fired multiple rounds, and the male shot and killed the deceased. Again, I don't know specifically what led up to that, though.
Is the girlfriend of the deceased male facing any charges for tampering with any evidence or moving the gun?
At this point, we're still speaking with her. I don't expect any charges as far as tampering. She basically took the weapon and put it in her car, which is at the scene directly next to the deceased. But again, it's still early on in the investigation.
The couple that was having dinner in the parking lot, did they come here to frequent a business, or do you know what brought them to this parking lot at 3 in the morning?
Yeah, they had went through the drive-through, and the business is closed, obviously, so they were sitting in the parking lot. Their bag of food is still sitting in the parking lot where they were eating. So they were just sitting outside their car eating after picking up their food through the
We're
drive-through.
talking about In-N-Out, right?
Yes.
And is Silver Bullet, that's the store, gift store?
Yeah, so the Silver Bullet has a bunch of rocks and damage to the window as if there was an apparent attempted burglary. The issue is we're still trying to figure out if that was related. We don't believe at this point that the attempt burglary to the business is related. Or it could just be a simple, earlier in the evening there was property damage that took place to the windows. But it's just it's a weird coincidence that it's extremely close to where the shooting is.
When the two parties interacted, was there any attempt to rob the two people having dinner or anything in that indication?
That's what we're still trying to iron out at this point, what the interaction was leading up to the shooting. We do know, again, that the deceased was armed with a handgun and had fired multiple rounds. And the other shooter fired multiple rounds as well.
So the male in the parking lot having dinner who fired back, was that a concealed carry weapon?
I believe so. Is the information I was told that the person does have a concealed weapons permit. I haven't verified that, but that is the information. That person immediately after they left the shooting contacted police, and that's how we were able to locate him. We went to their house and spoke with them after the shooting.
And then you mentioned that there was about 15 rounds fired. Was there damage to any of our surrounding businesses or vehicles here?
There's more than 15 rounds. It's a minimum of 15 rounds. There are impact bullets that did hit the business that we're still trying to process at this time. So again, it's still ongoing, but businesses were struck in the exchange of gunfire.
What's your message to the community this morning?
I just urge, if there was anybody who has information that I have not shared, please reach out. You can do that anonymously through Crime Stoppers, or you can also do that through our homicide section at LVMPD, or I'm sorry, homicide at lvmpd.com.
Which homicide number is this for the year? And are you guys looking for any other suspect or anyone?
There is one outstanding black male who was seen running away from the scene. We would like to talk with him and find out exactly what transpired. That's the only information I have, is it's a black male wearing dark clothing, and that's any person who has information pertaining to that, please reach out to Crime Stoppers, or you can do it anonymously through our email as well.
And then you said time of call was just after 2 a.m.?
Correct. It was about 2 o'clock this morning when the incident occurred.
Which homicide number would this be?
I don't know the specific number. Sorry. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
Here, have a good